Welcome to another exciting episode of Rogue Finances and Life, where we are life and financially sound. For today's episode, I'm interviewing Mr. Peter Lynch. Peter Lynch is a speaker, coach, and a proud dad. He is on a mission to empower entrepreneurs to break through the inner barriers and sell with confidence so they can achieve their destiny. So without any further ado, here's Mr. Peter Lynch.
Hey, Zeus, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being available.
Yeah. I love the title too, Rogue. Finances and Life. I kind of feel like a rogue through, on my own journey too. I always have, seem to have a.
The name came from I'm a Star Wars fan. So when I was thinking about the podcast, I was thinking about how can I use Star Wars into.
All right. Well, I didn't know we had that in common. So we can before we divert into Star Wars, better stay.
Oh yeah, definitely. Even though now I'm kind of disappointed with Disney.
Yeah. We won't talk about.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Different topic.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty sad.
But for today's talk, we're going to be talking about mindset, and we're going to use some Bible principles to deal with mindset. So, Mr. Peter, when it comes to mindset and using biblical principles, how do you describe what would be like your mindset according to like God's will?
Yeah, I love it. I think it starts with the contemplation for me that God has made us already with purpose. That's part of how we enter this world, how we are brought into this world is already being given a purpose and a plan. And I think a lot of us are told that we're special by our moms, but it's kind of hard to go through life and really believe that and recognize that. But I mean, it's about God's given all of us a gift. And I love that word gift because it already speaks to, well, if it's a gift, that means it was given to us, right? As I said, God, it's given to us by God. So it's not my gift, right? But I've been given a gift. We've all been given a gift, and that gift is meant to be shared, to be given. And so mindset for me is really just the process of being able to get out of your own way so that you can fulfill God's work, God's plan, God's purpose in your life. And that is what leads to fulfillment. But if we look at that too, God, we're told to take up your cross daily and follow me, right? In the words of Christ. So we're taking up our cross is also that is the process of sharing our gift. If we look at the cross is a gift, right? Christ's gift to the world was salvation, was the transfiguration of human nature, the joining with the divine nature, through his person of Jesus Christ, and that culminated in taking up his cross, which was where he was lifted up and shared his gift with everyone, all of us throughout and across time, So there's this coinciding of your gift, your purpose in life is also your pain, right? So your gift to be shared with the world is also your cross to be carried. And I experience that in my own life a lot of just like, because I struggle with myself. I struggle with that idea of getting out of my own way and saying truly, not my will, but thy will be done. Right. And the other thing that speaks a lot to me is the idea of being the paralytic, who's told, rise, take up your bed and walk. Right. And that's the other thing where I think the other layer or dimension of it is mindset is really just having that faith. Your faith has made you whole. So what's that mean for us? Because we're not in a place where we're just kind of waiting for a magic wand. Miracle doesn't mean, the clouds part, the beam of ray, sun comes down and our life changes, right? It's up to us. God's grace is always available to us, but it's up to us to be active and willing participants in that grace and in that healing and in that transformation. So rise, take up your bed, and, you know, and walk, right? Rise, take up your bed and walk. It's like that is a powerful statement, because it's also putting it on us, because we all can be like paralytics sometimes, feeling like I can't walk, right? I know for me in my own journey, there's been so many times where I felt like I was paralyzed by my own insecurity, self-doubt, my fear, right? My anxiety that would get the better of me when I was trying to, you know, when I started my business and I knew I had to make sales and I couldn't sell because I would have such major panic attacks. I just couldn't handle the confrontation and the fear that would come up and just swallow me, as I was dealing with the pain of that, you know, of painful traumatic experiences in my life that led to that place, where somebody who comes across you know, as confident, but I was just really, you know, when I started, and even to this day still those things come up and I have to deal with myself. But there's also that place of just being willing to rise, take up my bed and walk, to answer the call, because that's the other thing. It's a calling. The cross is calling. It's calling to us. We are being called. And the call is meant to be answered, but we won't answer it if we're just going to lie there and make excuses, you know, lie there and say, well, I'm paralyzed, I can't walk, so I could never do it, you know? So the mindset is all about getting out of your own way and really accepting and embracing God's grace.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I agree with that. Especially, like, also the Bible would tell us that God would never have us do anything that he already has prepared us to do.
Amen. Yeah.
So a lot of times we're afraid of doing stuff, but if we just realize that God has our back and he will always put us in a place to be successful and to be able to accomplish what he set us to do, then we can do it.
Yes, amen. And it's also about that surrender, right? Surrender and acceptance. That whatever you're going through, whatever we're going through in life is for our benefit. You know, and sometimes that means that like something doesn't go the way we want, especially as entrepreneurs, you know, right? We have businesses, we have goals, we want to see things happen a certain way. I can't tell you how many times I've faced disappointment as my business goals have not panned out, right? I've not hit my goals. I haven't got the clients that I wanted, right? All these things. And it feels like, you know, it can feel so disheartening, but there's been something else going on throughout all of that I know I can look back on with gratitude and have just that surrender of faith to know that, okay, I don't understand it in the moment, but I know that, but I can take comfort in the fact that God is working something deeper through all of that. So because I think that has to do with revealing who we are, right? Because we're made in God's image and likeness, but we carry all this conditioning, which is like layers and layers and layers that hides that image, that mars that image and likeness. And so we show up as a shadow of the potential that is there. You know, exactly. We show up as a shadow of what we could be, of what God has made us to be. So as you said, yeah, absolutely. You know, we're already equipped for everything that we are facing in life. And everything that we are facing in life, it's also there to reveal that image within us that we don't even see yet. We can't even see yet. So that's an incredible journey to be on, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like when I first started this business and finances and helping people, the fear of having to make calls and reach people until I started to realize that if somebody rejects me, you know, hey, I try to open their eyes. I try to offer them something that was going to help them, but I cannot, knowing that Jesus offers salvation for all humanity, but not everybody will accept it.
Right.
So if he faced rejection, we already know we are going to face rejection.
Yes, right. And it's, you know, and it is also the question, what are you passionate about? You know, if you're passionate about it, which I believe our passions are God-given, right? In that healthy way. It's like the dream. What's your dream? Well, you know, I don't think we have a dream that is not already placed there by God as an echo of what is meant to be, as a foreshadowing, you know, so that dream, that calling that you feel in your heart, Yeah, that's already who you are. It's just we're waiting to realize it, and just God help us that we are be capable of actually realizing it, because that's how the world is changed in a real and dramatic way. But yeah, as you're saying that, it's like that. Passion, right? Passion. If you're passionate about something, that means you're willing to suffer. Passion means willing to suffer.
Yeah,
So that's
so
also
good.
right. Willing to suffer the rejection, willing to suffer really what we're suffering is the pain of the old man dying, right? As we, once again, it's fascinating, it's just how we have all these teachings and kind of business and success and personal development, but if you look at it, it's all there already in the Bible, right? It's already there in the sense of, it's the old man must die, right? I must die so that my Christ might live, right?
Exactly.
And so it's like the comfort, and we're talking the secular world, kind of about the culture, getting out of your comfort zone and all these kind of things, but it's really just getting out of your own way so that Christ can shine, so that Christ can live, dying to yourself. And I love that business is such a crucible of that spiritual growth and development. I love that in making cold calls for your business, you can actually be, experiencing that transformation of the soul as you're because there's nothing like business to bring you face to face with your own inadequacy. And when you're face to face with your own inadequacy, what else can you do other than say, God help me? From a place of, as David says in the Psalms, a broken and contrite heart, these, O God, thou shalt not despise. And how many times has my heart been broken and contrite,
Yeah.
in business, as I just fail. And I realize, I can't, it's not me, it's you. If this is meant to be, then I ask, if this isn't working, where and how is my ego in the way that I'm causing my own pain? Because it's only me that's causing my own pain. It's not God,
Exactly. Yeah, that is so true. It's just that God, and then also when we look at Judges 6:12, when God speaks to Gideon and tells him that he's a mighty man of warrior, so we are warriors according to God's, he looked at us warriors. So why are we so scared? Why are we always so scared of doing stuff when we know that we are warriors? God made us to be warriors, and Christ's blood on the cross gives us the victory. So why are we so scared?
Right. No, Gideon's such a wonderful story of the children of Israel and everything that they face. Is such a reflection of our own internal journey, of just that. Why are we so scared? Why are we scared? Well, we're scared because we're trying to take it into our own hands. Because we don't trust God to do it. We think that we have to do it for ourselves, right? We have to somehow fix our own problems and have all the answers. And one of the beautiful things I love in coaching is, that as a coach, I don't have the answers. I only have the questions, and the questions lead us to the answers. And I like that just as it's one of those things that is an external principle, as a coach or in a coaching dynamic that can happen between two people, but as an internal dynamic, it's also true, because really the questions are when the question is a form of prayer, right? When we're asking for help, we're asking for guidance. I think that a lot of people pray without knowing, and I love that, because it's just God is there to provide us with the answer. He has the answers. It's up to us to ask the questions, because the asking is already a sign of humility. It's already to say, I don't know, which is for me to say, here, Lord, what do you want me to do? Because I sure don't know what to do next.
Exactly, that's true.
But I can cause myself all kinds of stress and anxiety by trying to have the answers, and I've done that. I fall into that still. I have an ego that is still here. But that's the ongoing journey, right? Of being able to face ourselves, acknowledge our weakness, and always get back up and continue the journey.
That is so true. Now, what is the key to a confidential and fulfilled life?
Well, it comes back to, the key to a confident, fulfilled life is to live God's calling, right? But in order to do that, you have to. It begs the question: what is that? How do you hear that? Right? I love that. That coincides with the still small voice of God. Be still and know that I'm God. Well, how are we going to be still if, for most of us, we have this experience of that we're trying to drown the voices, right? The voice inside, which is one of pain. It's usually a one of screaming pain. I'm in pain. I need help, and we don't want to listen to that because it's the human condition that we carry a great deal of pain. Really, the word for it is trauma. Trauma is one of these words that has a whole lot of association, and a lot of people think, I don't have trauma. Well, the reality is trauma is far more prevalent than any of us think because it's not an extreme thing. It can just be the adding up of a lot of little things. Regardless, it has the same neurological effect, emotional effect, which is trauma, which leads to this experience of what we call self-sabotage, right? This experience of self-sabotage, which is the inner pain, which is just simply because the subconscious mind speaks in emotion. The conscious mind speaks in logic and words and ration, right? But the unconscious mind is just feelings and emotion. And so self-sabotage is God did not design us to sabotage ourselves, right? God has made us good and very good. As he says, when he looks upon his creation, we are his creation and it is very good. So he did not set us up for failure, right? But we have this experience, so we have to ask, where does it come from? If we are actually here, fully equipped already to live, because that's the key to that fulfilled and confident life is already there. It's already there within us. It's already there within you, waiting to be unlocked, to be discovered, right? So where it's not something to become, it already is. It's a matter of pulling those layers away, and it's the process of inner healing, of coming back to terms with, being able to be still, be present with our own pain, which is so uncomfortable, to be present in the moment with ourselves. And in that stillness, the first thing, then the next thing that comes up that is loud and is kind of, drowning out the voice, the still small voice of God, is our own internal voice just saying, help, I'm in pain. And the way that shows up is, again, self-sabotage. But we're not designed for sabotage. So it's really inner conflict. There's a conflict, which is usually some sort of a belief system, right? Early in our childhood, where we're most formative, we've been embedded, a belief has been planted into our mind that it leads to a conflict through the rest of our life. That might be something, as overt as you'll never amount to anything, right? Or you're stupid. It's heartbreaking, but some children are told they're stupid, and that can become a belief system. If your parent tells you that when you're young, that's a belief system you carry throughout your life. So when you're an adult and you're trying to beat yourself, because nobody is stupid. You are not stupid, right? You're made wonderful. So, but when you try to live that, your unconscious is trying to let go of this belief that's been embedded. But the only way it knows to do that is to bring it to the surface through what feels like sabotage, but it's just conflict. For me, I wasn't told overtly I'm stupid, but there was a lot of other belief systems that I adopted that were more subtle, that were more passively injected, as it were, but they were very contradictory to the process. One of them, a big one, I think is great to bring up on a financial podcast, was this idea that if I make money, I'm a sinner, right? If I make money, I'm opposed to the will of God because money is inherently evil. And the family, the dynamic I come from most of my family, there's some outliers there, but most of my family, all the ones that I grew up around, were just kind of hand to mouth, barely getting by, usually below. If here's the expenses, it was kind of here, right? Never moving beyond. So when I made this decision, I'm going to have a business and I'm going to start exceeding my expenses and I'm going to start improving my quality of life. There was incredible self-sabotage, right? I had an incredible experience of just sabotage, but that's what taught me this process and this experience of, it's not sabotage, it's conflict. My own inner child was just going, are you crazy? I have this belief still that if we do this, I'm a bad person and I don't want to be a bad person. So help me understand, right? And I'm
Yeah.
thankful now to be able to laugh at the idea that being wealthy is a sin, right? That having money is a contrary to God. But I mean, that was a very deep affliction to carry for a long time.
Exactly. Well, and that's why it's so important for us to read and study the word so we can understand better, because when you really think about it, when you start reading, the Bible, especially the Old Testament, is full of entrepreneurs and wealthy people, but it's not so much having the wealth, it's what you do. It's the love of the money that is evil, but you know how much more can you do?
Yes, right.
There's so much good that we can do.
Amen. Absolutely. And Abraham, being an incredibly wealthy person, and what he was asked, his great trial is, was not his wealth, but his son. God asked his son of him the sacrifice, of Isaac, that then, of course, we know he didn't have to go through with. But it's such a challenging thing, because I think that what that references for us is it's what you just said. It's not the thing itself, it's our attachment to the thing, the person, it's the idol, right? We all have idols that we become attached to. And it's that willingness to engage with what is my idol. And the reality for me, what I really came face to face with, which was like a shock, like a thunder wave, when I realized this in myself, was my idol was false humility, like this false sense of virtue that I had by being poor. I thought I was more virtuous, and so I was allowing myself to judge other people because I had created, it's the parable of the Pharisee and the publican and the Pharisee, right? Yes, the Pharisees in there saying, "I thank thee that I am not like," and I've read, how many times have I read that? So many times throughout my life, so many times. And having eyes I did not see, and having ears I did not hear, until I began this entrepreneurial journey, and it struck me so deeply to my heart that I am the Pharisee. I'm sitting there, not in wealth, but in poverty, thinking, "I thank thee that I'm not like these other people that have money, because obviously they're so bad," right? And leaving justified, right? Self-justified. But it's the publican who just comes in and says, "Have mercy on me." And I realized, well, I'm like that. I'm also then like that man in the parable of the talents who goes and buries his talent. God's given me talents, and I'm just going and burying them in the dirt because I'm scared, right? Because I'm insecure, doubtful. I don't want to be responsible, right? But it's quite clear. It's like, well, the metric was, hey, did you make a return? It's a very fascinating, just financial principle there. Hey, did you make a return on your money? Right. But I love that we have that translation in the word talent, because of course it's a financial currency, but it's also, we think of your own natural talents, gifts and talents, and they both are applicable. How are you utilizing what God has given you?
And it's also, as one day we was reading the parable of the prodigal son.
Yes.
I see exactly what it teaches, but it also, when you really think about it, it also talks about his mindset.
Yeah.
Because he thought he was entitled. And then he squandered, he was a very poor steward of them. He had the wealth, but he was a very poor steward of the wealth that he had. So he squandered it, and then he totally lost. He sinned so much that he lost his mind for a few moments. Took him all. He had to kind of get his mind back,
right,
to realize that, wait a minute, this is not what I am.
Man, he remembered, right? Which is a fascinating word, because remember. The opposite of that word, we think in terms of like, our general consumption is like, some memories coming back to me, right? But remember, the opposite of that word is dismember. A little visceral, right? But so we're remembering. That means it's restoring something. It's not just memory recall. It's remembering, restoring the image. And I think that's the beautiful, again, back to this idea of we're made in God's image and likeness. Well, the prodigal son went awry. He went away. And then he has this moment of remembrance, remembering himself. And then he has to go take the journey back to his father's home. And he has the humility to come back and ask to be a servant, of course, and he's welcomed and forgiven, which is just, such a beautiful just story of God's grace and forgiveness for all of us, which also brings the challenge. Are we willing to receive that?
Exactly,
or are we going to condemn ourselves? Because it's the only thing that can tear us from God's hands is ourselves. Yes. There's nothing else. It's only our own flat refusal to receive God's grace and mercy.
Exactly.
Love,
you're right.
But yeah, remembering himself, remembering who he is, and it's such a powerful moment in all of our lives. And I also love that it's not a one-time thing; it's ongoing as we continue to remember. And then that fits in with this word integrity, right? We want to be men of integrity, which we think of usually kind of in terms of abiding by a ethical code or ethical moral code, right? Like being a good person. Exactly. But integrity, again, is also, it goes beyond that. Of course, if you're a man of integrity, you are a good person. You're a person of integrity. You're a good person. But integrity has, again, more to do with remembrance. Remember, because integrity, it references wholeness. So if we're really looking at it, it's like our own being has been shattered, through life, through the experiences of life, and we're remembering, we're becoming the integrity is being restored. And so as we're restoring that image of Christ in ourselves, remembering that image, we're also restoring the integrity of that image. So.
Exactly. That's true. So anything else you would like to add?
In the final moments, without going over time. No, I can go over time every day. No, I mean, just that. I guess my final thought is just that, the most important thing you can do, I believe, is really to pursue your calling, right?
Yes, sir.
Because it's in that taking up. Because I think sometimes I certainly had this misconception that taking up my cross had nothing to do with business, right? That taking up my cross couldn't be a business success, but there's been nothing more powerful for me in my life, in my walk with Christ, than having a business, right? Which is my way of taking up my cross daily so that I can serve my family, so I can serve others, and ultimately so that I can be a good steward of the gifts and talents that He's given to me and make a return on that.
Amen. I feel the same way. I feel that this is where I should be at, because with this financial business, it's more than just helping people with their finances. It gives me a platform, because we always pray to God, help me share the gospel of Jesus Christ with somebody that doesn't know you.
Yes.
Well, guess what? Being in finances business, I'm talking to different people. So there's always that one person that might need help with the finances, but it also might be that person that needs that help with spiritual, that is looking for Jesus or looking for salvation. They don't even know it. So I believe that being in business opens that door so you can reach people.
Amen. That's why, that's all, the whole other topic we didn't get into, but that's why I'm passionate about sales, is because it is that vehicle of increasing your impact, right?
Yes, sir.
You're positive, because when you can open doors with the power of sales, which is not to force the door open, but to open through invitation. Sales is the ability to influence, is the ability to communicate, is the ability to facilitate transformation, and so absolutely, it's like the more that you sell, the more that you're within. And I want to be very clear, when I speak about selling, I'm not talking about pushing things. I think we're all very tired of pushy salesmen. I certainly am, but I love empowering people to sell, because it's when you sell, you're sharing your gift in a more powerful way, and you have that opportunity. Even just in selling financial services, just that alone is already a ministry. That's another layer of it. You never know how just you sharing your expertise, your gift there might have a, can have that you're just sharing. You already are, by being who you are, you're sharing the light of Christ, right?
Yes, sir.
By going through the process of remembering, right? Everything that we're talking about here, you're already sharing the light of Christ just through the work that you're doing in finances. And then, I love that, the beautiful opportunity as it happens, right? With God's timing to
Yes,
go
sir.
beyond that. But it's wonderful.
Definitely. Well, thank you. Thank you for being available. Thank you for sharing. I really love this. I learned some stuff and I remembered some other
Yes.
stuff. But thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. Really appreciate you having me on.
All right.